Hi guys. So our group here. We did a musical matchmaker called Tutti. So it's a little story behind the name there. Tutti is an Italian musical term which means everyone. Where like in music it'll mean everyone comes in together. So we figured it was a suitable name for what's basically a matchmaking service for musicians. This app allows musicians to find other musicians to jam with or to start a band with or something like that. So if you're looking for, say, a keyboard player, you can go on and see who plays keyboard near you and see some samples of their work and everything. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and show you what we've got here. So what's that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we probably should introduce ourselves. I'm Bill and Charlie.
I'm Benjamin Oster.
Murillo, Lorenzo Amato.
Daniela Isidore.
And now that you know who we are, I'll go ahead and show you. This is our home page here. So it takes you to this when you go to the website. And down at the bottom, we've got a create account form right there on the home page so that if you don't have an account, you can create one.
We did start implementing the aspect of whether or not your account could be a band so that you would only have one account for like your entire band, and then you would be able to just find other members.
And we have a little button there so that you can select whether or not you have a band account when you're creating an account. And then once you log in, so, very good question. This is very much like Tinder, except focused towards musicians. So, when you get to this homepage here, it shows you a list of musicians that are nearby you, and for each one, you can hover on them and indicate whether you like them or dislike them. And using that data, we're able to create matches and pair people up who like each other. And if you dislike someone, it'll hide them in the future so that you don't see their profile anymore. So this here is the page that shows all of the musicians nearby you. It sorts them by how far away they are from you. And from here you can click on them and view their profile. On a user's profile, we'll have the picture for the user, a display location which the user can actually type in so they can be as specific or as vague as they want about where their location is. The band account.
It would show up if they were actually a band right there.
And since this person is not, there's nothing to indicate that there. A description that the user puts for themselves there. And over here we've got whatever genres that user says that they're a part of and what instruments that person plays. And then down at the bottom, users are able to post videos from YouTube of them performing or just playing their instrument or whatever, so that you can take a look at them and see how they perform and if it's somebody you'd be interested in jamming with. If we're back here at the browse page, like I said, we've got the matches. So if a person likes, if you like somebody and they also like you, it puts you into this list here. And in this case, we just have the Team Cake that also likes us, or likes me, since this is my account, I should say. And then we've also got a likes page, which right now it just indicates who you've liked. And the idea behind this was that there would be a paid version of this also, where you can pay for an upgraded account. And having that upgraded account would allow you to see the people that like you without having to like them first and become a match. So just give you a little extra perk there for paying to subscribe. If you click on your user profile up here in the corner, you can get to your profile editing page where you can change your information to, you know, whatever you'd like it to be. And you can also select which genres you're a part of. It does allow you to do multi-select, so you can be in multiple genres and also play multiple instruments there. So if I want to change it to those, And now I decided I also play the triangle. I can just hit save there, and that should go in, and now my account will be updated to reflect those changes there. And that way, of course, if anyone else was viewing my profile, they would see those updated changes also. Let's see here. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you dislike somebody, their picture ends up disappearing, so that you don't have to see them.
Oh, looks like Brian signed up for an account here. So let's just say that I dislike Brian. Hypothetically speaking, if I click the dislike button here, there we go, then it'll refresh the page here, and he no longer will show up in my list here. So that way, I don't have to look at him in the future if I don't want to. But then, let's see here. Yeah, putting them in that just totally removes them from everything, so you don't have to contact them in the future. There were also plans for a messaging system built into this. We just didn't have time to get to that with everything else. So once you were matched up with someone, you would have the ability to send direct messages to them and plan a meetup or something like that. Another thing that we were going to have that got started but did not progress very far is a mobile app, so that of course you could do this from your phone too. There is location data happening in the background with all of this, so whenever a user logs into their account, it takes the user's IP address and queries that against a service I found called, what was that? IP Stack, I believe is what it's called. And it's just an API that you can give an IP address to and get back location data and things like that. So I'm able to submit whatever IP address is logging in and get the actual latitude and longitude for that person. And then using the built-in geolocation class, I believe it's called, that's built into .NET, I was able to easily calculate how far they are away from each other by a built-in function within that class. So I did a lot of the work personally on all the location data and getting that whole side of things working. Did a lot of debugging. Daniela, she was our design expert, so she made everything look nice for us and made it all fairly user-friendly here.
We realized later on that the other three of us did not know much CSS, so we were very, very thankful for
Yes.
Daniela's study.
She was our in-house CSS expert. And then you want to talk about what you did?
So I, at first, was doing some of the genres and instruments, just making sure those were all put in. And then I went through and just did other little random things.
He did a lot with our data and getting all the data into the database for us to start working with. Just kind of managing all that as we moved along, keeping all that in order. Did a lot of debugging too.
We all did.
Yeah.
I did a lot of the, I worked with a lot of the list classes when we started getting into more of the matches and things like that. And then I primarily just started setting up, as soon as we started getting the matches going, I started working with exactly how we handled those matches and basically getting those into the database, how we handled the likes pages. And then kind of some more behind the scenes on this main page and also the editing for editing lists of genres and instruments. I worked in there too a lot. So that's what my focus was most of the time.
And as mentioned before, I did the CSS, so this website is also responsive. Like if you shrink it down, you can still use it on your mobile device. And I was able to get also that menu tool as well. And just being able to edit Word on a mobile.
Could be show the create user.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure that works.
can show that.
A nice logout button.
Yeah, we do have the ability to log out, which we realized we were missing a couple weeks into it.
Week 9 implementation.
Yeah. So from this homepage, creating accounts nice and easy. Just put in your email address. Let's see. Yeah, here, you go ahead and make one, you don't have one in there.
You got rid of mine.
So you guys are creating the account, just kind of think about like what you thought your most difficult thing to implement was. So I'm sure it's probably different for each person, like,
For me, the most difficult thing was the location data, because I had never worked with anything like that before, so just figuring out how to get that all implemented. When I found out that there was the built-in class in the .NET framework, that was a huge help. But just getting all that working, figuring out how to work with that API and everything. Basically, the biggest issue that I was stumbling with for a while that I know was when I first started dealing with that API, trying to get it returns a lot of data other than just the latitude and longitude. So trying to get just that out of there and just use the data that I needed. What I ended up having to do was just create a separate class that just dealt with that data coming back from the API, so that I could just throw it all in there and then just pull out the latitude and longitude, which was all that I was really needing. So that was my personal biggest struggling point.
Nice aspect about creating a new user, it pops you straight into the login page, and then you can just straight log in. And as you can see, it shows everybody. And then also when you log in, it updates right away your location. So if now Dylan logs in, he'll see that I'm at the same area as he is.
That's why we've got a bunch here that will say they're 0 miles away, because they're all using the school's IP address, so all coming back to the exact same location.
Would that matter if you were like remoting into another computer?
If you were remoting to another computer, it would use the IP address of the computer you're remoting into. So that's where it would base your location off of.
So you still could get false?
Yes, and same thing like if somebody's using a VPN or something like that, that could cause some issues with it.
so what you guys think was your most difficult?
I think for mine was, on the edit profile page, the multi-select box was actually more of a quick fix. What we initially were trying to do was to have kind of like a list of list boxes that would appear, and then it would kind of have like a red X next to it, and then maybe like a green plus like at the bottom if you wanted to add more, so that it would be like a dynamically changing list of other list boxes to add and change instruments that way. But I tried to get that one working for a long time, and I couldn't get the data to pass back from the view back to the controller properly when it was doing that. So that was the thing that I struggled with most, but getting into the multi-select box was relatively easy.
For me, I guess it was in general just kind of using Visual Studio because I wasn't really used to it. I got just introduced to it last semester. So it was kind of a little hard for me to kind of understand where everything was, but
I know. You could just not say anything, but now you have to say
The
something.
hardest part I found was just finding the actual data to actually put in, because I remember one of the weeks we were talking to you was just actually use data that looked nice instead of just finding the random stuff. And then also making sure that the band switch, when you click on that, was actually popping up. I spent a good time on that until Danielle actually fixed it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, what is that function that you were talking about? You got the difference between two IPs? Is that what you did?
For doing what now, I'm sorry?
Getting the distance between the two.
Basically, I found that in that geolocation class, there's a built-in function that's to find the distance between two geolocations. So by using that, it's able to just take the user that's logged in and another user and just compare them against each other and return how far away they are right from that.
And what's the geolocation based on?
That's based off of that IP stack API that I found, which you just give it an IP and it gives you back the latitude and longitude.
Gotcha. And how do you change your picture?
Right now, you are not able to. That was something
30
that-
seconds to figure that out.
Yeah.
And can you undislike somebody?
You cannot. No, once they're like, they're permanently like, or disliked.
So choose carefully.
So what tools did you guys use to help you either communicate, or what tools were most important for your teamwork?
We were using Slack to communicate, and we put in the, what do they call them in Slacks? The,
Continuous integration.
yeah, where basically every time you check into Visual Studio, it automatically posts on Slack the check-in, so that everyone was aware of what everyone else was working on, and we were able to see right when somebody checked in what they'd done, which that made it really useful for just staying on top of who was working on what, and, you know, not stepping on each other's toes. Any more questions? That is also something that we didn't get to. We ended up having to do a lot more debugging than we planned to at the last minute, and some of these features that we were going to put in just didn't happen, unfortunately.
So SQL Server.
Pretty much, that's how they're all in there right now.
Cool, good work. Work.